Hi everybody, welcome to Matrix Live. What?
You stole my thunder! I was meant
Oh,
to do
sorry.
the welcome.
You didn't say that? Okay.
Yes, I
okay.
did. Welcome, everyone, to Matrix Live, Season 6, Episode 25.
You sure? We're not going to move it to season 7?
Not
It's 24 episodes in the season, like TNG.
Yeah, might be something interesting coming up which would
Precipitate
a new season.
Okay, we might have a season cliffhanger on the horizon.
Maybe like when space is launched fully or something. Let's see. But yeah, so far we're staying in Season 6.
Okay. So, Spaces.
Spaces.
I like
it launched as a beta a couple of weeks ago now, I think.
Yep.
And we've got really good feedback from it, and it does really change the way things work. It's not fully there yet, and it's lacking a lot of good features. But do you want to tell us more about what's coming up next?
Yep. So, I think that Nad, who's been leading all the sort of space work from the sort of product design and perspective, because as you probably know, Spaces is our sort of first big feature to land from a organized, let's design it as a sort of user-facing product from the outset and then figure out how to build it rather than the other way around, which has not always served us that well. So the next wave of work post-beta is first of all to get aliases hooked up. Little bit awkward that we launched the beta without the ability to actually put aliases on Spaces, but it's coming very, very shortly now. We decided to go and do the drop and drag stuff on the space panel, what used to be boringly called the left panel, so that people can actually reorder their spaces there.
Shouldn't we call it a galaxy?
I
guess galaxy gets into spaces rather than the other one. Sorry.
Yeah. I was about to say my physics degree is kind of maybe. What is a space? Let's think of it as a mathematical space.
Yes.
So anyway, fun for that. Obviously iOS on the horizon.
Yeah.
And then most importantly, the reason that, it's probably the biggest showstopper for us properly using it today is the ability to join restricted rooms. So this is a new join rule of restricted that says it's a private room, but you are allowed to join it if you're a member of a space. And that, I think, is the killer feature here, so that when you join some company, some project, some club or whatever, you suddenly magically get ability to join all of the rooms within, and you can see them as suggested rooms. So once that lands, I think it will be completely transformational.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty good.
Magic. It's still good, and yeah, it helps a lot. So watch this space coming soon.
Watch this space. See what you did. Very deliberate too. Honestly, I'm using it a lot to just slice and dice through my room list, which has got 3,500 rooms in it, and honestly, I cannot remember all of the weird names of the rooms that we use for even discussing spaces. So having a kind of summary view in the tree panel, and if you haven't played with the subspaces, I strongly recommend it. It hasn't been launched yet, and Nad will probably be crying that I'm recommending that people use it. But basically, you can have your full hierarchy on the left-hand side, and the way you do it is to name when you create a space. Actually, how do you do it? Basically, somewhere when you create a space, there's something where it says where do you want to create it, and you can create it as a child of a room at that point, as a space at that point.
Let's see.
And iOS, and I mentioned iOS.
Yeah, you mentioned iOS. So yeah, all of this coming up. Other news in the space. Oh God, it's just coming to me. It's like element. You can say element all the time. Otherwise, probably want to tell us a bit more about what's been happening with Libera.
And freenode. Yeah, obviously been an interesting week and a bit in the world of IRC, with the freenode network having some minor governance changes, to say the least, which have resulted in Libera as a new IRC network coming up. We've spent a lot of this week going and getting the bridge running for Matrix into Libera. The reason this has taken longer than normal is that we've taken the opportunity to fix some of the very long-standing embarrassing bugs on the IRC bridge in order to provide a better experience, frankly, on Libera than we've had before. And the most important one of these is bug 215 off the top of my head on the IRC bridge, which is the race condition when the bridge restarts, that it might not know whether the people on IRC have yet been, the matrix users have yet been rejoined to IRC, and there's always a small risk, and therefore that the membership would get out of sync between matrix and IRC, which means that messages received from IRC might leak to people who have yet to be rejoined on the IRC side of the bridge. So basically, people on Matrix might see a couple of messages whilst the bridge is restarting, which they shouldn't have been able to see because they weren't actually connected on IRC. It's a nightmare bug to fix, but we think that we have a solution, which is basically to just drop messages from IRC to Matrix when the bridge is restarting, and we make sure not to restart the bridge very often. And if it does, it will restart quickly, so the drop would be minimized. And we'll also warn people on the Matrix side that they're temporarily isolated from IRC due to the bridge restarting. So we've traded off privacy in exchange for, with improved privacy at the expense of dropping some messages. Which I think will be a good thing. Also, it gets a dedicated home server, and it's got the DNS for Libera hooked up to it, so you can now join hash wherever on libera.chat, except it's not launched because we're still debugging some final issues on it. By the time you listen to this, it might well be launched. So pretty exciting to have Libera properly on Matrix like that, as well as on IRC, and it's been a lot of fun working with the guys there and girls there to go and get it up and running. Meanwhile, on the freenode side of things, it's a really weird situation. I mean, we know Andrew Lee, who had donated to us back in 2017 to help get the Matrix Foundation up and running.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit bemusing to see how things have played out there. And I think, if nothing else, in the end, it's probably a good sort of case study in why a totally decentralized model like Matrix has some merits, so that people can apply whatever governance they want to their servers, but in the end, it's all part of one independent, neutral network, rather than being in a situation where you can buy it or control it or have the various dramas that we've seen here. Hopefully we can figure out a way as a whole for this kind of fork to not be resolved necessarily, but figure out how to get on and coexist. But it's all a bit of an unfortunate situation. Talking of reputation and how do you... So, actually, let me do a better segue. So the disadvantage of having a big decentralized network like Matrix, which has nobody in control and cannot have anybody in control, is, of course, that it can go and fragment a million different ways and have a whole new set of problems in this great Wild West that we have with Matrix. So what should we do about that, Amandine?
Let's set up some decentralized reputation tools. So that's what some teams within Elements have been working on. There is a whole bunch of things in progress, but people may have seen MSC 3215 coming out, which created good discussions, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure many people have seen it yet, but basically this is us finally moving towards properly implementing and specifying the decentralized reputation stuff that we've been banging on about since FOSDEM 2015. So 6 years now. But the vaporware is finally coming home to roost, or whatever the expression would be. And we're actually building some code to experiment with this stuff. So specifically, MSC 3215 is Aristotle, moderation in all things, because we do like our puns. The idea of Aristotle is basically defining a report format so that if people on a Matrix client want to hit a report API to say, oh, I saw something I didn't like in this room, rather than it going randomly into a home server database like it does today, instead you can direct it to a different room. And so you can gather the reports for a given room in some kind of like private moderation room. So if you have a bunch of human moderators there, they can see what nastiness is happening in this room if you want to. Obviously, this is optional and opt-in. And then potentially you could look at these rules and either manually or perhaps automatically go and figure out steps to take so that if you've got 500 people in a room all say, oh, this guy is spamming, then perhaps that structured data should be consumable by another tool like Mjolnir, the abuse bot that we use for moderation purposes in the Matrix, and also the Mozilla rooms and GNOME, and I think KDE have a Mjolnir as well. I think even Graphene OS has a Mjolnir as well. Basically, it could take... it can make decisions on if everybody in the room says that this person is a spammer and everybody in that room isn't a sock puppet or a voting ring or a bot, then it might be enough to go and temporarily ban this person until human moderators come along in order to clear things up too. And so basically we're building out the ecosystem for allowing people to publish and subscribe to grey lists of reputation data in order to help moderate their rooms. Completely experimental, completely opting. God knows whether it will work, but we're actually writing code, so let's see.
Yeah, let's see how it works in the wild. And the team is growing on the Element side to work on this because it's we really need something, some good tools here.
So historically, we've had 2 people-ish working on it, but we've got somebody joining next week, and hopefully 2 more people joining shortly after that. So, I mean, from an Element perspective, with our figuring out how to fund Matrix core work sort of hats on, we see this as one of the sort of 4 main existential pillars for the success of the whole enchilada. And so we're basically trying to make sure that Matrix as a protocol does not fail because it fills up with abuse, but instead that we provide good first-class citizen tools for dealing with empowering people to deal with stuff however they want, really. Yeah. We had a really interesting chat with Tim Berners-Lee about this DWeb summit a few years back. Were you around for that one?
Probably when...
I think it might have been in one of the sessions you were having with him. It was the whole, why doesn't the web have the concept of reputation?
I think where he was saying that basically he didn't feel it was the responsibility of the people developing it.
Yeah, so it's the app layer, basically. Yeah. I'm just a pipe, not my problem. Yeah. It's up to the app to figure it out. We are just a pipe too. However, we think that it is our problem for the pipe to at least have the concept.
Tools. So the pipe shouldn't be saying this is right or this is wrong, but it should give the tools to people to deal with what they want and don't want.
Yeah. So, we spoke to somebody else who's very famous, but we probably shouldn't out him, probably about as famous as Tim Berners-Lee, who said, but this is your opportunity. If you're going and putting this reputation data in, then you should skew it. Why should it be neutral? You can make the world a better place. Take the ring, Frodo, or whatever. It was literally going and tempting us to...
what is better?
Yeah, to go and take a stand. And we rejected it and said, look, no, honestly, we're not going to play God. This thing is going to be completely neutral and let the humans figure out what is good and bad because it's not up to us. What else is going on?
Lots of stuff. Low bandwidth and peer-to-peer, you wanted to mention stuff?
Yes, yeah. So... lots and lots of stuff now happening in low bandwidth and peer-to-peer work. So we've got the low bandwidth MSC out there. We're actually running it live on dendrite.matrix.org. I think if you were to connect to dendrite.matrix.org on UDP port 8008 and talk low bandwidth matrix, I think something might even talk back to you. So that's really exciting. Also, the peer-to-peer stuff, it's had huge leaps and bounds. Neil Alexander is out there releasing his pine cones and releasing his snacks. As the sort of chain-based DHT routing algorithm. Lots of bug fixes has gone into that over the last week.
And simulators.
Oh yeah, the simulator's got a lot better too. If you haven't checked out his simulator, then go and Google Pinecone simulators and hopefully it will come up somewhere. But it allows you to visualize the peer-to-peer topology both as the spanning tree that is used to bootstrap it, the snake that is used for actual sort of routing, and the physical mesh as well. And I think it's extending it so you can actually look at the routes which things take over the physical network, because otherwise it gets pretty confusing juggling between the 3 different topologies. But lots of bugs have been fixed there. There have been some routing loops or wooting loops, and they've been fixed, and lots of new builds. I think we're on build 78 or 79 now if you are following along with the peer-to-peer stuff. Play with it, use it, it's going to be fun. Yeah. Also on low bandwidth,
sync?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure it was the right one. To make low bandwidth work even better, there have been some optimization of the sync, which is called Sync V3, very imaginatively.
Yeah. So for quick history, Sync V1 was like May 2014 vintage API called /events, which would just chuck you events and you keep polling it, and it sucked because it had race conditions, which meant you couldn't reliably switch between a snapshot of a state and then the subsequent blocks of events which came afterwards. So then in Christmas 2014, I think, Sync V2 came about, which is the /sync API we know and love today, which does not have those races, but it is very, very chatty. And whilst you can filter it down, it has no concept really of lazy loading at all, apart from the lazy loading member stuff that I added a couple of years in. So Sync V3 is a prerequisite for low bandwidth, and frankly will make everything a gazillion times better because it is designed to scale. What's the right word? It is designed to scale independently of the number of rooms that you are in. So even if I was in 1 million rooms, rather than the 3,500 rooms I'm in today, when I sync, it would always go the same speed, and it would always just give me the top 10 rooms or whatever my client asks for that I'm interested in. So this should speed up our initial sync from the quarter of an hour that it can be today through to a couple of 100 milliseconds, and also incremental syncs, which can also be really slow. Like when I open Hydrogen after being offline for a week or so,
it takes ages.
It takes 5 minutes, and again, this should get that super, super small. But the most exciting thing is that it means we can go crazy with rooms. We can just join loads and loads and loads of rooms, and they can be rooms for people, rooms for threads, rooms for reputation, rooms for whatever rooms do we have? Voice, video.
Yes.
Spaces. Lots of spaces, yeah. So super exciting. Cool. So Keegan, as we speak, writing a V3 to V2 sync simulator, which is written in Go and will literally take, because V3 is a strict subset of the V2 API, you can basically convert one to the other. So it will sit there talking V3, and then you can plug it into your Synapse or your Dendrite or your Conduit or indeed your Construct and play around with the new API. We still don't have an MSC, but it will be coming real soon now. Very exciting.
Indeed. Otherwise, a whole bunch of news on the Element side, which can interest people. We have been sponsoring 2 outreachy interns to work on Matrix. There is Shay working on Signal and Silent, and Meenal, who is going to pour side test to complement, to make sure its complement is getting to how do you say? Parity, thank you.
Which is very exciting because SciTest has got about 900 tests in it, and it's some very, very dense Perl. We love SciTest, and we're very, very grateful to Leo, who wrote almost all of it many years ago. But Complement is written in Go. It's actually an engine from Keegan, and it's a very different architecture. If you Google, you'll find Keegan given a really good presentation on how it works. It basically uses Docker containers everywhere to spin up the various different test environments, and going and trying to get some of those 900 tests over to meet the 50 tests that we have on Complement will be so useful. And also Signal and Silent traditionally get so little love, it's untrue. Yeah. So having somebody really focusing on just maintaining and also fixing the various embarrassments on them will be fab too. Yep. So good luck, folks. It is great to have you on board.
Indeed. Also, we keep seeing on our side many countries reaching out to us and wanting to deploy Matrix, not just for the government, but for their entire population, which is really cool because it really means that the network is taking off to the next level. We're up to 13 now, 13 countries.
Yep.
So not all of them are finalized and deploying, etc., but that's the kind of pipeline we're seeing.
I think every continent in the world is now represented apart from Antarctica.
Yeah, we need to reach out to anyone we know, and if anyone hears us on Antarctica.
Yeah, precisely. If anybody's on Vostok base and it's the American McAndrews, McMurphy base. Yeah, either way, come get in touch and we'll sort you out with low bandwidth SATCOM link based Matrix for Antarctica.
Would be great. Otherwise, quick message, hiring. Element is hiring a lot. We have 3 iOS developers joining the team, joining Manu, Stefan, Ismail. Stefan, who joined last week, and 2 more starting in the coming weeks.
This is very exciting. So these are people hired to, there's going to be a bit of element-specific stuff, like helping out all these countries, etc., coming on board, but the majority of the work is going to be core Matrix, pushing, doing stuff for the Matrix Foundation. So very exciting that the iOS team is literally doubling in size in the coming weeks. What about Android?
Android is open and really looking for more Android devs to come and help us, and backend and web and basically everywhere. So you know where the careers page is, and if you want to work on Matrix full time, get in touch, because pretty sure we can find something for you.
So yeah, that's probably about it. It's been ages since we've done one of these.
Yeah, it was very speedy, but...
Yeah, we're talking quick because I've got a meeting in 5 minutes. Sorry. I'll go ahead and say any questions, but unless like somebody charges in like the thing.
We can say half shot. Any question?
Yeah, just half shot. Oh yeah, half shot. So, well, I don't know. Go and ask them on #twim or MatrixHQ or wherever you want to find us. And very happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, all it leaves for us to say is thank you for flying Matrix, and
see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.